evening, everybody. My chest infection is almost completely gone, which means I can speak normally almost without coughing a bunch. I still do have a bit of a lingering cough, but thank you for bearing with me. Hello, everybody. Welcome to those of you in the chat. Kestrel42 here is saying like smashed, which is what we like to hear. Mark the Dorset SP. Evening, Alex. Good evening, Mark. And Harter is here, best theme song ever. And Harter will be coming on my channel very soon for part 3 of her story. I'm looking forward to that very much. Kay Disney is here. Hi, Alex. Hi, everyone. And Road to Freedom, smashing like some more. Well, thank you so much for joining me. Today, I'm bringing you some news about Greenfield School, which is Scientology's only school in this, what they call this side of the planet planet Earth, of the hemisphere, of this half of the world. There is obviously the Delphi Academies over in America, which use Scientology's study technology developed by L. Ron Hubbard to teach kids. And in the UK, there's Greenfields. That's the Delphi equivalent. Now, Greenfields has been under pressure for quite some time. I brought you guys the news fairly recently that the Independent Schools Inspectorate, on a routine inspection of the school, found a serious number of safeguarding concerns that they flagged in their report, which is available online. I've covered that previously. That was based on an inspection in March, and the school have supposedly made some leadership changes and some adjustments to the way they are operating to reflect those changes needed that the government have asked for. However, this is another blow for Greenfields. Now, a little bit of context here. Greenfields is a private school. It is a school that people pay to send their children to. And my inside source tells me that about 30% of the students at Greenfields are international. That means they come from foreign countries. And in order to study in the UK as a foreign national, you need an educational visa. Now, up until very recently, Greenfields have been able to issue these visas. They've been a sponsor. So schools can sponsor an application for an educational visa and say, yeah, no problem. They're coming to study here. We're going to give them the visa and they will study here. And there are limits in terms of, what other things that you can do while you're in the UK on this visa. Now, Greenfields have had their visa sponsoring status taken away from them. It's been revoked by the government, and that is the news that I'm going to bring to you guys today. Scientologybusiness.com is my blog. I'm going to be reading through the article. I'm going to bring it up here on the screen. I want to give you guys a bit of context as to the significance of this. If 30% of Greenfield students or thereabouts are foreign nationals, that means Greenfield is going to be losing about 30% of its income, if not slightly more, because schools in the UK are able to charge higher tuition and boarding fees for international students. They already have raised their fees, I think 20 or 30%. Anyway, and there's going to be a change in the law in January. Private schools are now going to have to pay VAT, which is basically sales tax. Historically, private schools wouldn't have to pay tax on their tuition fees because they're considered educational charities. And the new government have come in and made a change to that and said that even if you're an educational charity and you're a private school, you have to now pay 20% sales tax. So on top of Greenfields now having to pay 20% tax that they didn't have to before, they've also lost 30% of their income, which is going to put them in a very financially tricky position going forward. And the person whose head this falls on is Peter Hodkin, who is Scientology's lawyer here in the UK. Peter Hodkin is the father of Louisa Hodkin, who's now Louisa Caucioli. She is someone I used to work with at London Org. Her and Ali Caucioli, they got married. They were the first UK couple to be married in a religious Scientology ceremony after they took the government to court. It went to the Supreme Court. The definition of religion was changed in British law. This is all the handiwork of Peter Hodkin, who is the head trustee, the chairman of Greenfields. He's not the head teacher, but he is in charge of Greenfields as a trust. So let's read through this article and discuss. The link is in the description if you want to read along with me. Headline here: Scientology school loses visa status after Home Office inspection. Scientology's private school in Sussex, which recently came under fire after the Independent Schools Inspectorate raised serious safeguarding concerns during a routine inspection, has had its visa granting status revoked by UK Visas and Immigration. Now, that's part of the Home Office here in the UK. Excuse me. Greenfield School, which charges fees of up to £32,850, which is roughly, in today's exchange rate, $43,000 per year, had previously been able to issue educational visas for students moving from abroad to study at the school. In a letter sent to parents and seen by Scientology Business, head teacher Andrew Hodgson explains, "I regret to inform you that our ability to sponsor students has been withdrawn by UK Visas and Immigration. This means that we will no longer be able to sponsor students from overseas. Current sponsorship will end on 31st of July 2024. We are very sorry to be in this position and understand if it causes difficulties for families. We would like to offer to assist in finding alternative arrangements so that students can complete their studies. One possibility is that a nearby school could continue to sponsor students." Now, a point of clarity. If a nearby school is sponsoring the student, that student will need to go to that school. I don't believe there is a system in the UK whereby a school can sponsor a visa and then that student study elsewhere, because the visa is based on the program that the student will be doing. So these poor kids who have been sent to the UK to go to Greenfields, the only Scientology school in Europe, in this part of the world, are now going to have to either apply for a new visa and go to a different school, which is a non-Scientology school, or move back home to whichever country they came from. There is no other option. There isn't a world in which they can apply for a study visa and continue studying at Greenfields. So what the head teacher here is saying is that we can help you find a new school that can sponsor your visa and will do our best to help you get a place there, but we can't have you at our school any longer. Excuse me. According to the recent inspection report, Greenfields has a total of 176 pupils, of which 30 are boarders, meaning they live on site. An inside source close to the school tells us the loss of sponsor status means that they are about to lose 30% of their students. This is a big enough financial blow where they could close down. This adds to growing pressure mounting on the school as the government prepares to introduce 20% VAT sales tax on private school fees from January, and an inspection by the ISI in March determined Greenfields did not meet the required standards relating to safeguarding, leadership and management, and quality of education, training, and recreation. Now, I am in the process of trying to find out more information and share more information with you about this issue. At the moment, I can't confirm why the visa status was revoked. However, the timeline is in March, the ISI flagged serious safeguarding concerns, and then June, July, the Home Office inspected the school and revoked their visa granting status. Whether the two are linked or not, I can't confirm or deny, but we will soon find out when we can share more with you. This picture here is Peter Hodkin, Scientology's UK lawyer that we mentioned a minute ago. As reported on the Underground Bunker, Greenfields, like so many other tentacles of the Church of Scientology, tells the press and public that it is independent and not part of the church, but its board of trustees is made up entirely of Scientologists, and the board is chaired by Peter Hodkin, Scientology's most prominent UK lawyer. Our source tells us that Hodkin definitely calls the shots and handles all legal issues for Greenfields pro bono. Part of the deal of Peter being the church lawyer is that he always has to be moving up the bridge. COB, meaning David Miscavige, has gifted Peter expensive watches, but also his entire bridge as thanks for the legal wins he has had. He has to continue moving on the bridge to be the church lawyer. So David Miscavige is rewarding Peter Hodkin for the hard work he's put in to trying to get Scientology to be religiously recognized in the UK. Now, whether Scientology is recognized in the UK as a religion is a touchy subject. There isn't like a religious recognizing authority in the UK. It's made up of a number of different rulings and judgments. Property that is owned by Scientology, churches of Scientology in the UK are officially considered places of worship. That's what gave them the ability to perform wedding ceremonies back in 2013, 2014. 10 years later, at the beginning of last year, 2023, there was another tax ruling in which case there was a tax ruling in which those same buildings were designated places of public worship, which means they're therefore exempt from property business rates tax. However, the religion or the group or the belief system or whatever itself is not something that is recognized to be for the public benefit. In 1999, the Church of Scientology applied for charity status here in the UK under the religious exception and said, hey, we're a religion, we're benefiting the public because people can come and worship here, and therefore we should be tax exempt. And the British government said, no, the practice of Scientology does not benefit the public, and they were rejected tax exemption. However, the two legal victories in 2014 and 2023 have been huge for Scientology to be able to claim some minor legal victories and claim they have some sort of religious recognition. And that's all the handiwork of Peter Hodkin. So in return, David Miscavige has given him a nice Rolex and has said, here, you can continue your progress up the bridge to total freedom for free as a thank you for your hard work. However, you have to keep going, you have to keep moving on the bridge, and you also have to keep working hard to ensure that we actually finally get the charity status one day. So this is going to be a huge blow for Peter Hodkin himself because it's thrown a massive spanner in the works, and Dave Miscavige isn't going to be happy about it. Let's carry on. Greenfields was founded in 1981 by Peter Hodkin's mother, Margaret Hodkin. A recent Greenfields promotional flyer shared with Scientologists online explains, just over 40 years ago, LRH himself requested that Margaret Hodkin, a former captain of St. Hill, start up Greenfields Independent Day and Boarding School so that there could be a special place for Scientology kids to go and get an education and where the tech would be applied. 40 years later, the school is still attended by her great-grandchildren, and the legacy continues. However, this statement contrasts another piece of marketing which was posted on a public East Grinstead community Facebook group, which says that Greenfields said, "We are a secular school that celebrates having a multicultural environment." Greenfields is the only applied scholastic school outside of the Americas, and in 1994, one of its teachers actually admitted to having, let's say, inappropriate relations with a teenage pupil and was jailed for doing so. Greenfields doesn't have the best history when it comes to safeguarding children, and this is one of the reasons the Independent Schools Inspectorate had such major concerns. And it's really funny because they think they are hiding it, but they're not hiding it very well at all. This is Greenfield School's website. If I share my screen here, if you go to the About Us page and then you go to our history to find out a little bit more about the school, this is a picture from when the school opened. And you'll notice here, there's a really bizarre space missing. And if you zoom in, you can see they very badly photoshopped out somebody who is in this picture. Now, I understand this person is actually that teacher who went to prison for his inappropriate relations. I don't know that as a matter of fact, because obviously I wasn't there when they photoshopped the photo, so I can't say for sure. But people who were around at the time and who've seen this photo before it was edited have confirmed that it is the teacher that was sent to jail, and they've still got it on their website. How outrageous is that? As if no one's going to notice. It's blindingly obvious that someone's been photoshopped out here. But anywho, so that's the news. Greenfield School, which is a huge recruitment pool for the Sea Organization, has had its visa granting status revoked. Now, when I was on staff at London Org, almost all of my colleagues, my friends, the second, third generation Scientologists who I worked with and became very close with, all went to Greenfield School. And as soon as they finished their studies, as soon as they were legally able to leave school, they moved straight onto staff at London Org, and they are still there to this very day. So the fact that Greenfield now is in a financial place of troubling times, I don't know how better to say it, it's in a financially precarious place, means it may have to shut down, which would be a major blow to Sea Org recruitment in the UK, because even though Greenfields is a separate entity legally, it's not officially a part of the Church of Scientology. It is run by Scientologists. It uses Scientology technology. And what's important to note here is it applies ethics conditions. I believe Scientology ethics is among the most harmful and dangerous parts of Scientology when it's applied on children. This is where people are locked in rooms and forced to write up their transgressions, known as OW write ups. It's security checks, it's harsh manual labor when your statistics are down. And you might think, what statistic is a kid going to have? Well, there's a whole point system called student points. And basically, in a nutshell, if you study a certain number of hours or you pass a number of exams, like checks or whatever, you get points, and your points have to always be going up. So if, for example, you get sick because you're a child, you are going to get an ethics handling, and you're going to have to be assigned lower conditions, which means you have to make amends. You might have to do hard manual labor. You might have to do some painting or mest work, or so they call it, to make up the damage for your statistics being down. This is a really horrible way to treat a child. And even though Scientology isn't taught per se at Greenfields definitely applies Scientology on kids, and the most harmful, dangerous part of it. Danielle Chamberlain here is saying the one saving grace for us in the Sea Org in the 1970s and early 80s was going to a normal state school, as we got respite and a meal. Yeah, exactly, Danielle. Look, let's also remember, not all Scientology kids go to Greenfields. There were Scientology children whose families didn't have enough money to fork out £30,000 a year to send their kids to Greenfields. And so they go to the normal state school, but they still would like to go to Greenfields if they possibly can. I had a very narrow escape from going to Greenfields, actually. When I finished my GCSEs at the age of 16 and I had joined staff, we were trying to figure out a way of me not continuing my studies. So, because at the time in the UK, you could leave school at 16 and that's it, your education's finished. Or you could do a further 2 years that were optional at a college or sixth form before then going to university. Now it's changed. I understand that you have to stay in school until you're 18 now in the UK, but at the time you didn't. So one of the options for me leaving staff because I had to go back to school was that I would go to Greenfields to do my A-levels in the sixth form, because that way at least I'm still doing Scientology and I'm using study technology, and my parents will be happy because I'm going to sixth form and continuing my education, and we might be able to blag a day off or a couple of days off here and there so that I can carry on working at London Org. The only reason that ended up not happening is because of the fees that Greenfields were charging, and it was just simply too much. And so I had a very narrow escape. But I know a lot of people out there didn't get so lucky and were subject to horrible conditions and treated very harshly at Greenfields. And that's continuing to this day. Mark the Dorset SP here says, this school sounds more like a child's prison camp. Yeah, exactly. Um, you're 100% right. And this is what the Independent Schools Inspectorate found, was that there's no way for a child to report a concern about an adult, or if they're being bullied, there's no procedure in place, there's no process or procedure in place for that child to report it and have parents and adults and teachers all look into it to try and figure out what's going on, come to a resolution to ensure that the child is safe while they're studying at the school. That doesn't exist at Greenfields, and that's why the government stepped in and said, hey guys, this isn't okay. And I can absolutely imagine that these things played a part in the Home Office's decision to revoke their visa status. Mark the Doors SP says Greenfield staff also double up as OSA ninjas for the IES event. Yes, there was a teacher who works at Greenfields who was at the IES event dressed up, and we knew he was at Greenfields because he was wearing this jacket that had a Greenfields badge on it. Like, come on, how stupid. But he was there all masked up. We could only see his eyes, following Jeff Beaumont, PTS for Life, and me around, filming us and our every move, and he was doing the work of OSA. And this is how the staff at Greenfields are acting towards ex-Scientologists who are peacefully protesting outside of the time that they are teaching. T from Perth Scientology Audit, how's it going? Great question. Is Greenfields the only Scientology school in the UK? Yes, it's the only Scientology school outside of America. If you look at the Applied Scholastics website, which is the arm of Scientology that deals with study technology and getting Scientology into schools, it states that Delphi and Greenfields are the only Scientology schools that are accredited that can officially teach study technology. Now, there's a couple of different Delphi schools in America, and there are schools that aren't called Delphi but fall under the Delphian Academy. However, they are all in America. And then there's Greenfields in the UK, and that's it. There may be unaccredited schools, or there may have been schools in the past. I think there was a school in Denmark, in Copenhagen. I believe there was one or two in Australia as well. However, I understand they've now been shut because they are not listed on the Applied Scholastics website. Only Delphi and Greenfields are. And in a recent piece of Scientology propaganda trying to promote Greenfields, I think it was posted only a week or two ago, it referred to Greenfields as the only Scientology school in this half of the world, the other half being America. Road to Freedom. Is there a danger that they will be converting into a home education group and go completely under the radar of the school inspectorate? Great question. And it's possible, but I do understand that even homeschooling in the UK now falls under the banner of Ofsted, which is the government that, so the ISI deals with private schools, Ofsted deals with public schools. And my understanding is that if you are homeschooled, you still have to evidence a curriculum and a syllabus, and you have to show what you're teaching your child, and it still has to fall in line with the national curriculum to some extent. I don't think it's as stringent or as hardcore as a school, but they do still have to do checks because of child welfare and safeguarding, that sort of thing. So it's possible. Who knows? I think they're going to hang on till the bitter end. Greenfields isn't closed. It is still open. But if they don't make enough money for this year and the year after, I don't know how much they've got in reserves, but they're going to be, struggling financially and may have to close. We have two in Australia, but they are hiding as Montessori schools. Definitely still open here. They've just fiddled it. Well, I don't know anything about that. They're definitely not listed on the Applied Scholastics website. And Applied Scholastics is the branch of Scientology that deals with schools that are delivering study tech. So something to look into for sure. So send me some info, T. Maybe we can do a video about it. There's one more piece of information that I want to bring you guys. Actually, three more pieces of information to bring you guys. Number one is I have some new merch in my store. This is just a little quick side note. If you guys want to support the channel, you can buy me a coffee using the link down below. There's PayPal, all that sort of stuff. Or if you want some merch, I've refreshed it and there's some new hoodies and t-shirts and stuff in there. You guys like this potential trouble source stuff, so I've got this new design with like a sort of geometric gradient thing going on. And also, I try and always lead my activism with kindness and compassion. So there's this new design that just says, have a nice day, with a little kind of mini rainbow thing. So you can get a mug, you can get a t-shirt. So just spreading the good vibes and the positivity around. And there's the potential rubber source one as well. So there's all different merch with those things on. If you want to go and support the channel and get some of those, apostatealex.com with the link down below. Or of course, super chats, buy me a coffee, all that stuff helps as well. Okay. The next big piece of news is it is the Bookathon. Here is the promo. Big Think Bookathon, 22nd till the 29th of August. Prepare yourself, book your locations, and get ready. To give you guys an explanation as to what exactly a bookathon is, this is the time you are most likely going to see Scientologists on the street selling books of Dianetics books and offering free stress tests in every city around the world in which Scientology has a base. So if you are a live streamer, if you're protesting, this week is when you're going to see them out on the streets more than you normally would. A bookathon is an international competition where orgs around the world compete to try and sell the greatest number of books to raw public, i.e. members of the public who have never studied Scientology before. And they all compete in this big table, and whoever gets the most number of books sold gets a big trophy and rewards and, you know, all this sort of stuff. And it's just about the only time I was able, when I was working as director of public book sales, to get staff members from across the org to participate in selling books. Normally, when we'd go out and offer stress tests, it would just be a couple of us that work in the public-facing Division 6 of the org. During a bookathon, it's considered an all hands. So there are staff from all over the org, auditors who weren't auditing at the time. Course supervisors generally had to stay on course because there were only one or two of them. But, you know, people who work in HCO, the ethics officers, people who were working in treasury or in dissemination, who don't normally have a sales role or a public facing role, they would come out for a couple of hours and offer stress tests to people on the streets to try and sell Dianetics and get it out to as many people as possible. So everywhere in the world until the 29th of August, they're going to be out trying to sell more books than they did last week or the week before, because they want to win that game and all the orgs are competing. So if you are a live streamer, a protester, try and find out where these booths are. It's usually not directly outside of the org. They will be there, of course, but at London, for example, we would go out to Edgware Road. We would go out and outside Brixton Station, Shepherd's Bush Station, places that have high foot traffic, where we would set up a table or two or five, however many volunteers we had. We put the e-meters out there, make a book display, and try and sell loads of Dianetics because there's lots of people walking past. Now, the reason this is important is we never actually got permission to street trade. In London, I don't know what it's like everywhere else in the world, but in London, if you want to sell something on the street, it's usually okay, but you have to seek permission from the council first. You have to get consent for a street trade to happen. So you have to have a license, even if it's just for a few hours on the side of the street. You have to have a street trader's license, a permit. We never applied for these permits because you'd always have to pay 30 or 40 pounds. It would take several weeks to apply for and get the license. So we would just rock up somewhere, sell as many books as we could. And if a council inspector showed up and said, oh, you guys are selling books and you're not meant to do that without a permit, we would go, oh, we're terribly sorry, we didn't know. We would pack up, move all of the stuff and go to a different location in a different council and continue selling there. So if we were doing it in London, I'm sure this is what they're doing around the world. So if you see stress test booths, if you see Dianetics being sold on the streets between now and the 29th of August, just double check what zone they're in and phone up the local council or local authority and find out if they need a permit to sell books. And if they haven't got one, report it, because you can get those stress test booths shut down, because Scientology are not going to want to spend the money and the time and the effort to try and get these permits when their goal is just to get these books out as quickly as possible. And also Scientology also failing, so it could be very hard to secure the funding for a permit for every single day and every single location, because during a bookathon you would have several locations in the same city. So that's just a little note to all of you guys that are live streaming and protesting out there. Keep an eye out, because it is a bookathon, so they're going to be pushing it hard this week. Jeremy's in the house. How's it going, buddy? Good evening. How are you feeling, good sir? Thank you for joining, Jeremy. For those of you in the chat, say hello to Jeremy. He's a good buddy of mine. I'm doing much better, as you can probably tell. My cough has almost completely gone. It's still kind of there. But yeah, back on track now. Thanks, buddy. All right, let's look at this final piece of information that I've got for you. And this is regarding Europe. So any of you guys over in Copenhagen, in Denmark, I know L. Ron Hub Cult and Scientology Up North are leading the battle over there. But they are Scientology are hosting an event. It's the 3rd annual convention, United for a Drug-Free Europe, and this is on the 21st till the 22nd of September. So it's a whole month away yet. However, this is how they're marketing it. Narconon Europe, which is so Narconon is Scientology's drug rehabilitation program based on L. Ron Hubbard's Purification Rundown. People have died doing the Narconon program, let's not forget. 3rd annual convention. Join us for the 3rd European Convention for a Drug-Free Europe. What is the current drug scene in Europe? What can be done about it? Meet with veteran Narconon staff members and field representatives, as well as senior executives. And this is happening in Helsinki, Denmark. Narconon Europe. So this is at their Narconon Center, not at their major advanced org. Please confirm or email. Please confirm by email or phone with the confirmation info there. But this is the promotional flyer. There's going to be a big event happening in Denmark, 21st and 22nd of September. So any of you guys watching from Denmark that are available to go on those 2 days and perhaps do a bit of live streaming outside, I wanted to give you the heads up so that you can be there. I probably won't be able to make it myself, but I'd love to see what's going on over there. So, guys, thank you so much for listening. I think this has been quite a big week for me as an activist. You know, the fact that Greenfields has had their visa granting status taken away from them, and the fact that the Information Commissioner's Office has now ruled that East Grinstead Town Council have to supply the meeting minutes and all of the emails and communications associated with the meeting back in January that they have been withholding and trying to stop us from getting a hold of that information for months. The fact that they ruled in my favor is just huge, and I've been very busy, and it's 5 months of work to get this to happen. So thank you so much to everyone that's supported me so far in this journey. I'm going to keep going. There's a bunch of stuff that I'm working on behind the scenes that I can't talk about just yet, but I'm hoping that you guys can now see the start of some of the impact of the work that I've been doing outside of YouTube, to try and hold Scientology to account and try and stop the abuse that is currently going on here in the UK at the Church of Scientology, London, St. Hill, Manchester, Birmingham, Sunderland, Plymouth, Edinburgh, and everywhere else, Bournemouth and Poole, and everywhere else that there's a Scientology group. And I couldn't do it without you guys, so thank you so much. And please, as always, if you want to support the channel, coffees would really be appreciated. I've had to take pretty much a whole week off work during my busiest time with work because it's the summer and I work a lot in the summer for music festivals. I've had to take this whole week off because I've been sick with this chest infection, so now I need to try and make up that lost income so I can pay my rent, as well as, of course, all of the costs associated with streaming, you know, paying for StreamYard and the hosting for Scientology Business, my website, and the cybersecurity and all that that sort of stuff. So any support you guys can give would be greatly appreciated. But the best way of supporting in a non-financial way is pressing that like button, commenting down below, subscribing if you haven't already, check that notifications bell. And thank you so much, guys. Awaken H, I just want to bring this up here. Alex, if it wasn't for you and Jeff, I'd still be stuck in so than you more like. Thank you so much, Awaken, from sharing that. And that's really good news. I mean, this is what makes it worth everything, is when I hear about people who have left Scientology or who have escaped or who have, realized, that they were in something that wasn't helpful to them because of the activism that everyone in SPTV is doing. That's what gets me up in the morning, is knowing that I'm going to do something every single day to try and raise awareness and try and help people out. I'm never going to try and convince someone to leave. If I was to come face to face with a Scientologist, I'm not going to stand there and argue with them and try and change their mind. It's their decision. But what I do want to do is be there to support and help those people once they decide to leave, so that they know that there's a whole network and a community of people here to support them in whatever way they need. It is possible to be happy outside of Scientology. It is possible to be successful. It is possible to have a happy, fulfilling life outside of Scientology. And that's what drives me to try and get that message through to people currently in Scientology, and also to raise awareness among people who have never been in Scientology, so that they're aware that this isn't just a crazy American cult, as so many people here in the UK think it is. It's a dangerous, harmful organization that destroys families, that ruins people financially, that tears people apart, both mentally and physically. This is something that people need to be aware of. And that's what motivates me to keep doing what I'm doing. And it's a very long road. It's a very long process, and it's very slow moving, but little by little, step by step, we'll get there. And we're starting to see some of this stuff happen now. Awaken H saying that we helped him or her come out. Thank you so much for sharing that. I'm glad that our message is reaching people currently under the radar. And the fact that we now have government agencies listening and doing things about the children who are being forced to do ethics conditions and ethics handlings at Greenfields. Now the government have stepped in and said no more of that for foreign students. Who knows? Maybe they'll step in and close the school down altogether for even domestic students. That's the next step. But one step at a time. These are two major wins that we've had this week, but they're minor wins in the grand scheme of things. So let's just celebrate, but let's also not forget how much further we have to go. So thank you guys so much for joining me, and I will see you guys on the next one. And as always, I'm on war footing, and I hope it's really clear I'm not fucking about.